Hey everybody, Chuck here. We're in module 3 with this video in section C, where we're looking at sources of demand. And we've got two sections here. One talks about determine independent demand. The other one's determine dependent demand. And I'll read off what I've got for both of them. But I think what probably makes sense is to have me go to a little whiteboard here and describe the two of them and how they're related to each other before we get into the reading here. So let me share the screen with you. I go over to my whiteboard in OneNote. Okay, so I'm going to draw kind of a mythical bill of material, if you would. So I've got A made up of B and C, B made up of D and E. When we talk about, I'm going to actually work backwards. In fact, let's do this. There's two B's and three C's that go into every A, and each B is made up of three D and four E's. So let's do this so we can capture the math. And I'm going to do dependent demand first. And dependent demand looks at these four items that I'm putting a square around and says, hey, the demand for those comes through the manufacturing process and is dependent on the parent above them. So if I looked at A, let's say I wanted 100 A's, then if I had two B's for every A and I want 100 A's, then of course I'm going to need 200 B's. So the demand for B is dependent on A. And the same thing for C, I would need 300 C's for 100 A's. We go down to three or D's and E's, they too are dependent on the demand for something above them in the bill of materials, in this case, B. So it's always quantity per one parent. So if it's three D's for every B, and I want, what did I say up above here? 200 B's, then I'm going to need 600 D's. And for E's, if it's four E's for every B, then if I want 100 B's, I'm going to need 400 E's. So dependent demand comes through the bill of material, through the manufacturing process. It is calculated. Independent demand would be A. A is considered independent demand because the demand for A is not coming through the bill of material in the manufacturing process, coming from a customer order up above it, be it a forecast, an order, whatever. So in that case, independent demand needs to be forecast. Now, there is one situation where a dependent item, I'll just use the bottom left corner, could be also independent, and that would be on spare parts. So let's say we had a bifold door. Two doors make up one door in a frame. So picture-wise looks like this. Here's the door frame. Here's the door one and two. It could be A is this whole thing. B is made up of each of the doors. And D is the hinges. That would be three hinges for each door, let's say. So in this case, we could also sell the hinges as spare parts, and those would definitely have to be forecasted. They are not coming through the manufacturing process or through the bill of material. They're coming independently of the build process. So that'd be the other situation. Okay, so we've kind of got those described. Let me stop sharing here for a moment and let me share what I've got written here. So for dependent demand, independent demand is actual demand from a customer, whether it's orders, forecasts, or any other need. And any other need could very easily be, life testing, quality testing, going out to a show. I need samples for customers, things like that. They're all coming from outside the bill of material. And the important standpoint I've written down, it's important to capture any and all demands possible because the need from the customer will be there and appear. And if we haven't captured it ahead of time, we're going to get caught and scramble when the demand finally appears. So we want to capture all the demands we can. And from an impact standpoint, it's not just meeting customer demand, but how we respond to it and if we do it efficiently, effectively, and ultimately probability. So if we don't see the demand coming, it's hard to put a plan together. Dependent demand, again, the sections determine dependent demand, and we can see that's already calculated. So it's demand for an item that arrives via the manufacturing process through the product structure, which is the bill of material, as a result of demand for a higher level item, in our case, A, in the product structure. These demands are processed through MRP since they are calculable and not forecast. Importance-wise, we want to make sure we're planning supply and demand with the proper tools in the proper way. And from an impact standpoint, proper planning for dependent demand is planning the subassemblies, the components, the raw materials, making sure they get planned correctly to meet the later needs of production to finish off the product correctly and on time.